The plane cabin shimmered with soft, warm Christmas lights, an attempt by the airline to make the late-night flight feel festive. Most passengers were exhausted, wrapped in blankets, trying to steal a bit of sleep before landing the next morning. But seat 14A remained wide awake. In that seat sat Adrian Hale, the CEO known in the business world for his sharp decisions, faster work pace, and an emotional distance that no one could ever quite break through. He had boarded the plane with the hope of silence, a break from endless meetings and the hollow celebration his staff had tried to throw for him earlier that day. Christmas Eve meant nothing to him anymore. Not after losing the only person who made it feel warm, his mother. He pulled out his laptop, determined to bury himself in work even 30,000 feet above the ground. That was when he felt a small tap on his arm. He turned, annoyed at first, but the irritation softened when he saw a tiny boy standing there in oversized pajamas with candy cane socks. The boy's round cheeks were pink from excitement rather than sleepiness. "Hi," the boy whispered loudly, as if trying to whisper but failing adorably. "My mom said lonely people need friends." Adrian blinked, unsure how to respond. The boy climbed onto the empty seat beside him before he could protest. "Are you lonely?" the boy asked with wide, honest eyes that made it impossible to lie. "I'm fine," Adrian replied stiffly. The boy shook his head as if he had just heard the world's worst answer. "That means yes," he declared confidently. "Mom says when grown-ups say, 'I'm fine,' they're actually sad." Adrian almost smiled. "Almost. And what's your name?" he asked, folding his laptop half-closed. "Evan," the boy chirped. "I'm 5. I can read a whole book by myself. Except the big words, and sometimes the little words." He paused. "What's your name?" "Adrian." "That's a big word," Evan announced proudly, as if he had just identified a wild animal. "But I can say it." For the first time in months, Adrian felt something melt inside him. Maybe it was the boy's innocent confidence, or maybe it was the fact that Evan wasn't asking him for a business deal, an interview, or a signature. He was just there, pure, simple, and unfiltered. Before Adrian could reply, a soft voice approached. "Evan, sweetheart, I told you not to disturb anyone." Evan's mother appeared, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Her sweater was worn at the cuffs, her hair hurriedly tied back, and she carried the aura of someone who worked too hard yet still stayed gentle. "I'm so sorry," she murmured, pulling Evan toward her. "He just loves talking to people. Especially on Christmas Eve." "It's all right," Adrian said, surprising even himself. "He wasn't bothering me." She hesitated, clearly not used to kindness from strangers. "Thank you," she whispered before guiding Evan back to their seats 2 rows behind. But Evan didn't stay away for long. 10 minutes later, the boy peeked between the seats, motioning frantically for Adrian to look. He held up a gingerbread cookie shaped like a star. "I saved this one," he whispered loudly again. "For you." Adrian shook his head gently. "You should eat it." "But you're lonely," Evan insisted. "And lonely people need cookies and friends." "That's what Mom says. And I'm both." A laugh escaped Adrian, small and unfamiliar. He accepted the cookie. "Thank you." Evan beamed and disappeared again, leaving Adrian staring at the little star-shaped gift in his hand. For the first time in a long while, work didn't feel urgent. The plane didn't feel as cold. And loneliness didn't feel quite as heavy. Christmas Eve had just begun to change for him, and he didn't even realize it yet. The soft hum of the plane mixed with the faint jingling of a flight attendant's Christmas-themed charm bracelet as she walked down the aisle. Most passengers had dozed off by now, but Adrian found himself sitting awake, gingerbread star untouched in his hand. He kept staring at it, feeling strangely connected to a 5-year-old boy he had met less than an hour ago. Something about Evan, his unfiltered warmth, his fearless friendliness, had cracked a door inside Adrian he had long sealed shut. He finally looked up when a tiny whisper floated over the seats again. "Psst, Adrian." Evan was back, crawling under the armrest like a mischievous cat. Before Adrian could stop him, the boy plopped into the empty seat beside him, clutching a small blanket. "Mom's asleep," he announced proudly. "So I can sit here now. I'll keep you company." "You should rest too," Adrian said, trying to sound firm, but the words came out gentler than he intended. "I will," Evan nodded. "But I wanted to ask you something important." He scooted closer, eyes big and serious. "Do you have a mom?" "Everyone has a mom." The question hit Adrian like sudden turbulence. He swallowed. "I had one." The words tasted heavy. "Oh." Evan's voice softened. "My dad is in heaven." Mom says he watches us from the stars. He pointed at the tiny airplane window. That means your mom is up there too. Maybe they're friends. Adrian exhaled slowly. The simplicity of the child's logic was disarming. Maybe they are. Evan thought for a moment, then climbed onto his knees and placed his small hand on Adrian's wrist. That's why you're lonely, he whispered, as if unveiling a solved mystery. I can be your friend till your mom comes back. She can't come back, Adrian said quietly. Not like, down here, Evan replied, tapping the seat. But she can be back in your heart anytime. He tapped Adrian's chest with a tiny finger. Mom says hearts are like bedrooms. People we love live there. Those simple words settled into Adrian's chest deeper than he expected. Before he could respond, Evan snuggled into his blanket, yawning dramatically. Wake me if you get lonely again, he murmured. Minutes later, the boy fell asleep beside him, head resting on Adrian's arm as though it belonged there. The CEO froze at first, unsure what to do with a small sleeping child, but slowly, carefully, he let the boy lean on him. Something softened, a feeling he had forgotten existed. Comfort, warmth, presence. When the flight attendant passed by, she smiled warmly at the sight. Looks like you've made a friend, she whispered. Adrian didn't answer, but the faint smile on his lips did. By the time Evan's mother woke and came looking for her son, the boy was deeply asleep, his hand wrapped around Adrian's sleeve. She approached quietly, not wanting to disturb either of them. I'm sorry, she whispered again. He's usually shy around strangers, but with you, it's fine, Adrian said, keeping his voice low. He can stay. She hesitated, studying the man who looked more at peace than he probably realized. Most people don't have that effect on him. Or he on them. He's remarkable, Adrian admitted. She softened, then gently brushed Evan's hair. He's had a tough year. Christmas makes it harder, but he always tries to make others feel less lonely. Adrian looked down at the boy sleeping against him. For the first time, he understood why those words carried a kind of magic. As the plane glided silently through the clouds, the woman whispered, whatever he saw in you, it was something kind. Kind. Adrian hadn't been called that in years. Yet somehow, on this quiet Christmas Eve flight, with a child's head resting on his arm and a gingerbread star in his pocket, he felt like maybe, just maybe, the word could fit him again. Morning light crept into the cabin as the plane began descending, brushing everything in a soft golden glow. Passengers started stretching, yawning, rubbing sleep from their eyes, but one small boy remained sound asleep, clinging to Adrian's sleeve as if it were a lifeline. Adrian didn't move. He sat still, watching Evan breathe peacefully, feeling an unfamiliar calm settle inside him. It was strange. He had attended countless board meetings, handled billion-dollar negotiations, but nothing felt as delicate, as important, as not waking this little boy. When the pilot announced the landing, Evan finally stirred. His eyes blinked open, still heavy with sleep. He looked up at Adrian and smiled the sleepy kind of smile only children could give, warm and trusting. You didn't get lonely, right? Evan murmured. No, Adrian replied quietly. Not this time. Evan sat up straighter, rubbing his eyes. Good. Mom says friends fix lonely hearts. Adrian didn't know how to respond, so he simply nodded. When Evan's mother approached, she smiled gratefully. Thank you for watching him, she whispered. He must have felt safe. He's a good kid, Adrian said, surprising himself how soft his voice became. As they prepared to get off the plane, Evan insisted on walking beside Adrian. He held his small backpack protectively, bouncing excitedly as they moved through the aisle. Do you live here? Evan asked suddenly. For now, Adrian replied. We live here too. Evan grinned. Maybe we can see you. Maybe we can be friends outside the sky plane. His mother gently squeezed his shoulder. Evan, honey, mister. Adrian is probably very busy. I would like that, Adrian cut in before she could finish. He didn't even know why he said it so quickly, except that the thought of never seeing the child again stung unexpectedly. Evan lit up like the Christmas lights decorating the airport. See, Mom, he likes friends. I told you lonely people always do. She flushed in embarrassment again, but Adrian only chuckled. If anyone else said something like that, he would have felt offended. But from Evan, it felt like truth, innocent, healing truth. The three of them walked together through the terminal. People rushed left and right, families reunited, children celebrated Christmas Eve with joyful shouts, but somehow, the world around him felt quieter. Calmer, warm. When they reached the baggage area, Evan tugged on Adrian's hand. Can we give you something? You already gave me a cookie, Adrian said. That wasn't the important thing. Evan said, gasping dramatically. This is. He opened his little backpack and pulled out a bent, hand-drawn Christmas card. Stick figures everywhere. One tall figure labeled, Lonely Man. One small one labeled, Me. And between them, a big red heart. Adrian stared at the messy drawing longer than he meant to. Something inside him tightened, then loosened all at once. You made this, for me. Yeah, because Mom says giving love is how hearts stay warm. And you looked cold when I saw you. His mother looked horrified. Evan. Sweetheart, that's not. But Adrian shook his head gently. He's right, he said quietly. He knelt down, eye level with the boy. Thank you. This means more than you know. Evan threw his arms around Adrian without hesitation. The hug was small, fragile, but real. And it broke something open in Adrian's chest, something he didn't even realize he had locked away. When they finally pulled apart, Evan's mother stepped forward, shy but sincere. If you ever want to visit, we're in Cedar Grove. Apartment 214. I'll remember that, Adrian said. Evan waved both arms as they stepped away. Don't forget us, we're your friends now. Adrian watched them disappear into the crowd. For the first time in years, Christmas Eve didn't feel empty. It felt alive. Hopeful. As he looked down at the crooked little card in his hand, he realized something shocking. He wasn't lonely anymore. Not because of the holiday. Not because of a miracle. But because a 5-year-old boy decided he needed a friend, and refused to let him stay alone.